Hey guys, welcome back to Community Starcraft 2. My phone is going off, but nevertheless, this is Sidewinder, or I am now known as Magnet, and yeah, I'm back after a really long hiatus from this channel. I figure I should probably get back into it now that Heart of the Swarm is out, now that I do have a little bit more time now that school has cooled down a little bit, but nevertheless, as you can see on screen, we will be doing today's lesson. It's just getting started with Protoss. We're going to cover quite a few things here in this video, and this is just assuming that either you're a brand new player to StarCraft 2 as a whole, at least multiplayer, or if you just want to switch to Protoss and you want to know what it's all about. These are mostly going to be geared towards lower level players, or again, new players, just for people that want kind of the bare information as far as how to play StarCraft. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this, and hopefully if I have all my fancy hotkeys working, we should be able to see everything. So welcome back. Okay, so let's just assume for the sake of consistency that you just bought StarCraft 2 and you want to play Protoss for whatever reason. Maybe you've watched some games, you think they're cool, maybe you just think they look cool. That's a good enough reason, whatever. So we're just going to go ahead and hit this matchmaking button. And where I want you to start is probably versus AI. This will be a little bit different for you, and we're going to go ahead and choose Protoss. And I'll run through some options and just some general ideas about the race, so that you guys have a good understanding of, you know, what's to be expected if you're going to play this race for the long term. So we'll go ahead and get this started up. It will just randomly put you on one of the matches, or rather one of the maps, in a match against an AI. And you'll be able to just hop right in. There's no risk, obviously. You're just playing an AI. If you lose to a computer, then, I mean, might get your feelings hurt, but it's not as pressure-oriented as playing like a real player, for example. And yes, Skype is being annoying and popping up on me. So, what I want you to do as soon as you start the game is actually just want you to hit the pause button. Most keyboards have a pause button, so we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to jump into the options and make sure that all of your options are set to an optimal way to play. The first thing you want to do is modify any graphical options that you might have that might cause you some problems. You want it to be, I mean, if it looks good, then that's cool, but you want it to not interrupt your gameplay, because if you're trying to fight and you get, like, 5 frames a second, then that sucks. The other thing you want to do is jump into these sounds, make sure that all the sounds are good, and you can play with them later. You just want to know where they are. But probably the most important thing is we're going to jump into controls. You do want to set this to a sensitivity that you like, and I am actually playing with a different mouse, probably purposefully, so I can assure that this works okay. So set this up. You want to set your scroll speed a little high, because this is what's going to be scrolling on the edges of the screen as you get there. Keyboard scroll speed, you should try not to use the keyboard, but some people still do. It doesn't make a difference. Drag scroll, I don't think is going to make that big of a difference. So just set the mouse sensitivity somewhere where you're comfortable. Set the mouse scroll speed fairly high. As far as gameplay, this is probably actually the more important of the two. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. The options that you want to set here, make sure this unit life bars is always set to always. Make sure the flyer helper is set to always. You do want to make sure that the game timer is checked and the build grid is checked. It is best if you disable the simple command card. It is best if you disable the team colored life bars. It's a little easier to read if it's in standard settings. That's pretty much it. You do want to also check enable enemy unit selection. I know that's one annoying thing that people have some troubles with. Oh, and one other thing is you do want to display the hotkeys on the command card. That's a pretty big deal, actually, so that you can see what button you need to press in order to do what action. Okay, now as far as hotkeys, if you're just learning how to play a PC game, or if you've never played StarCraft before, I really recommend Grid. That's what I learned on, and I started from nothing. I started in Bronze when I first started playing, and that feels like a while ago, but Grid is pretty easy to learn, considering if you can match your hand up to on the screen right there, you can see that just sets exactly how your keyboard should be laid out. So it's pretty easy to remember, and they'll correspond to the different slots on the screen. You'll be able to see that in just a second. So now that we have all of our options set, we'll go ahead and jump into the game, and I'm just going to play a little bit and kind of talk about the race itself and what you can expect if you're going to be playing this race. And you can just watch me play. I'll be playing kind of mindlessly, so you won't see anything too special, but we'll go ahead and get started here. So the first thing that you want to do with any race is always just start a worker. Make sure your rally is set to an open mineral patch so that your workers will get to work as soon as they start. Let me check my frames. Okay, looking pretty good. And notice that I am not touching any of these buttons over here. That's a really big deal. You'd never want to touch these. You want to use your keyboard for those actions as much as you can. So you can see that if I just hit the Pro button right there, you'll see it light up, and that's me actually tapping the keyboard to make that happen. With Protoss, this is really general stuff. Your first pylon is always going to come down on 9, so just pull a worker as soon as you have 100 minerals on 9 supply, and then send them back to work. And then you can start your next worker when you have the appropriate amount of resources. Okay, so as far as Protoss in general, they are the most expensive and probably the slowest race. I mean, I have to always put that in kind of quotes. And you can watch the game here, or you can watch me, or whatever. I'll just be playing just for the sake of watching somebody play. Let me turn my team colors on. So Protoss is really like the slowest and most expensive race. I've always maintained that it is the race that requires the most knowledge to play at a high level. Like, you have to be able to build strategies that do really well against your opponents. You can't afford to make a ton of mistakes as far as in important battle situations, but I wouldn't worry about that right away if you're just starting out. Protoss always really relies on their gas as well, so I'm going to be taking a couple of gases here, and this is a really standard opener right now, so if you want to copy this when you're playing against AIs or whatever, you're more than welcome to. Starcraft in general really is a game about mining resources, and mining more resources than your opponent is a big deal. So the whole idea is that your units and whatever are limited by the resources that they cost, which you can see if you just mouse over any one of these different units. And you would think that the bigger army should win a fight pretty much every time, and the bigger army is always going to be the more expensive army, considering you're limited by resources, you're limited by supply, etc. So if you're thinking of playing Protoss, you want to think more about, like, do I want to plan out my own strategies, or do I just kind of want to play and goof around? Protoss is probably a little more structured than the other two races in that way, I would say. Yeah, I mean, that's really general. This is the opener so far. As you can see, everything's mapped out. Right now, you'll notice a couple of important things that I will cover in other videos, but I really want to hammer it home, especially for new players, and that is that you never want to stop worker production unless you really have a good reason to. So you can see, if you've noticed, my Nexus has not been idle this entire time. It might be idle now that I've forgot a pylon. It's a little bit late, but it might be okay. Yeah, so the basic point of this game is, how many resources can I mine, how well can I spend those, and am I doing that better than my opponent? So one of the bigger ideas here is that you always do want to expand early if you can hold it off with these units. So I'll be taking another Nexus here pretty soon. And this is kind of a weird map. You don't generally see maps like this, but there is a second base kind of in your whole regular main base area. So yeah, I'm just getting some economy up here, and this all isn't terribly important right now. I just want to give a general sense for how Protoss feels and how they operate. I'll go ahead and get another Stalker out. And you do want some kind of tech to prevent against other things that will go on. And we'll cover that in other videos as well, as far as what units do, what counters they are, different strategies, stuff like that. But for the most part, if you just play this video back and you copy this build exactly, you can run it in most matchups. It might not be the best for against Zerg, but it really just varies on the type of game you're playing and how confident you are in controlling your units. So, in a nutshell, let's go ahead and pause this. Let me just check my card really quickly to make sure that I'm covering everything that I want covered. That's right. Making sure that I'm covering everything that needs to be covered. Okay, so why choose Protoss? The reason you choose Protoss is because you just like the way that they feel. You should feel that way with any race. And like I was saying, Protoss is a really slow, expensive race, but they're really strong. So if you can get your super strong units up and get them in the right situations, you should really just clobber people with them if you're controlling and running everything properly. Advantages and disadvantages are that Protoss is really prone to mistakes. Like if you make a mistake, it could just outright end the game. You could say that about any race, but Protoss is a little more fragile in that way. So the advantages are that if your army is super strong and you can control it correctly, the opponent will have a really hard time holding it off. Disadvantages are, again, getting that point is pretty difficult. General mechanics and concepts, I kind of just explained that. Let me jump into back into the game. I'm getting messages here, but I'll jump into the game and show a couple of different unique mechanics that are to Protoss that the other races really don't have. So let's see here. Let me get back in. The one mechanic that we have is Chrono Boost, which you could see me maybe using throughout this little opener, and that makes stuff build faster off of your building. So you can see the probe build time, or you might notice this bar accelerate. We'll watch it and you might actually see it slow down once the Chrono Boost wears off. And that's denoted by this little animation here. So if the bar is going up really fast, oh man, I missed it. Okay, now it's going a lot slower than it was before. Might be a little bit hard to see, but it makes a pretty big difference if you're trying to make more important or expensive units faster or whatever. So yeah, I'm getting a little sloppy here since I'm talking a lot, but the other thing to note with pretty much any race is that you never want to stop workers. Always keep producing workers as much as you can possibly handle. And yeah, the other mechanics from Protoss is that they have a lot of interesting spellcasters. Like this is the Mothership Core, which was introduced in Heart of the Swarm. It has some spells on it, as you can see. You just mouse over here to see what they do. Probably the most important one, the most frequently used one, is the Overcharge on the Nexus. So if I turn it on, you can see the Nexus has this little ring around it, and whatever's there will actually attack it. I'll just have it shoot one of my own units so you can see what it does. So yeah, Protoss is a pretty defensive race, and there's a lot of tools for that. We'll get into other videos and other units later, but I hope this was just a good introduction to Protoss and may help influence you to playing the race if you think that they look cool or if you just want to try them out or whatever. I have a whole series of videos on how to play Protoss, so they should be in this playlist sooner or later if they're not already, which I think for most of you they will be by the time you get that far. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say, so I guess we'll just go ahead and wrap this up here, and we'll get into more of how to play the race's macro in the next set of videos. So it'll be generally like how to produce units and how to make sure you're running your builds and stuff on time. As you can see, I'm clearly not doing that as I have a lot of money saved up. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and pause that, and I'll get back into the title screen. Hopefully all that was running, and if it's not, I'm obviously going to delete this video, so I don't know why I'm saying this, but anyway, I hope that this helped out. Stay tuned for more videos in this playlist that are relevant to Protoss if you want to keep learning. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later, and if you want to check out my stream, I do stream like casts and stuff like that. There's a link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Go ahead and check that out. Hope you enjoyed this video.